your eyes on the prize. Hold on, why don't you hold on?
I can't think of a better way to start the night really than that. Hello everyone, my name is Malcolm. I'm going to be your MC for the night. Thank you all for coming along this evening. Here for the launch, the 2014 launch of the Menswork Project. So welcome everyone here tonight to Maylands. This is my current home as well. I'm a Maylands man. Have we got any other Maylands brothers? Oh, look at them all. Oh yeah, it's the place to be. If you're not living here, you really should check it out. It's a diverse area. Because I was talking to one of my friends Dave last night, trying to encourage him to come along. He's like, well, it's all for blokes, isn't it? It's all for guy stuff. I go, oh yes, obviously the name implies that, it's Menswork. But we're also very much about recognising and acknowledging the incredible, wonderful role that women play in all of our lives. I'd also like now just to acknowledge the MWP workers that are in the room. I'm going to call them out just one at a time, and then at the end of it all, we might have them rousing around the floor. But one at a time, if they could just stand up. At the end of the night, you'll see these 6, you call them almost sort of red totem poles, really. So these red boards around the place. All the men are going to be next to each of these at the end of the night that you're about to meet now, and they'll be telling you, answering any questions you may have, and discussing what sort of programs and things are going to be happening throughout the course of the year. So, one by one, if I could just ask them all to stand, we'll start with Jeff Paul. Jeff down the front. Peter Fry. And of course, many of you know these people, if not all of them. Peter Efford. Yoo-hoo! Oh yeah. He gets a woo-hoo! Wow, you set the bar now, okay. Raya Grunfeld. Yeah, I wasn't as good as the woo-woo, was it? As I said at the start, because I can't speak Noongar or any other language, with Raya, I wasn't sure. If anyone doesn't know his name, it's spelled R-E-I-J-E-R. And he was here earlier, and not many months before, but I thought he was one of the Peters. So without looking at his name tag, which is in full view, I did the old keeping the eye contact, won't look at the name tag. And I said, this Raja guy, Raja, do you know much about him? How do you spell it? How do you pronounce that name? What is he? What's he, bloody Dutch? What is he? and after about 2 minutes, very polite, I said, Groenfeld. Oh, jeez, you're bloody Dutch, eh? God, big history there. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, so thank you for your patience and for not hitting me. Mick Engelert. Engelert, there is our great chef. Stephen Dimitriadis, who's down the back filming tonight, and Mr. Wes Carter. All right, round of applause for all of them. Apart from Wes, if everyone else could please return to your seat. As I said, you'll see them all at the end of the night next to these red posts around here. The reason I've asked Wes just to stand, Wes, if you could just stand, just face the audience there. I'm sure many of you know Wes already, that in October last year at the Australian Men's Health Forum in Brisbane, Wes received the Forum's Award for Leadership. Wes wasn't there at the time, he was in Bali running one of the men's retreats. But they wrote a great testimonial. I'm just going to read out a snippet of what they said about Wes. This by no means encapsulates all that Wes has done. It says, Wes has been a pioneer men's worker since the mid-1980s. Many roads in the Australian men's movement lead back to this man here next to me. By now, generations of men working in organisations, services, advocacy groups, men's events, younger men and the elderly have had some link back to Wes. He's the founder of the Menswork Project, originator and contributor to countless events, programs, networks, gatherings, conferences, national events, mentoring and support. His leadership, landmark work, service and enthusiasm to the well-being of men has earned him the unofficial role of being a founder, father and elder of the men's movement in Australia. So tonight in Maylands we want to acknowledge and thank Wes for his outstanding contribution. Alright, that now brings us to our main guest speaker for the night, Mr. Julian Krieg.
It's a privilege to be here because I think the work that Wes and his team do around WA and helping men to come to terms with some of the issues in our lives is outstanding. And so I'm really glad you're here tonight to listen to some of the stuff. Our vision is to try and empower men in their communities to actually take some responsibility for their health and well-being. Do you think we do that very well? No, we seem to be disempowered a fair bit, don't we? As blokes, it's a problem because we tend to be social isolates when it comes to the big issues in our lives. But the truth is, as men, we don't talk about the big issues. What are the big issues? Our personal health and safety. You know, the other thing we don't talk about is spiritual fulfilment. Sadly, we confuse spiritual fulfilment with religion, and it's not connected. Spiritual fulfilment is about how well you know you. And I can see that a lot of people will find spiritual fulfilment through religion. That's okay. But most Aussie men are not religious men, but they've thrown out the notion of spirituality along with religion. And sadly, that's done a lot of damage in our society. We need to be able to find our own spirit and where we're going, because it's really important. So there are three things about our health we need to remember: physical, mental and spiritual. Don't ever forget the third one, because it's critically important to your well-being. We talk a lot about the top two, but we often neglect to talk about that third one, which to me is pivotal. You know, men create their identity through their jobs. Do you believe that? Almost the first thing a man will say to another man that comes into his life is, "What do you do for a job?" Because that actually gives him permission to talk about stuff, or not, or ignore it, or walk off. Second thing is a footy team, I suppose. But men create their identity through their jobs. Because the truth is, when you slow down a man enough, he actually realises there are other bits to his life that he should think about. There are other things in his life that he should think about. And for a lot of blokes, they don't get that. There is more to us than we think. This attitude of "I don't need any help" is the downside of the Australian Aussie male. So for men, these are the crisis points, and most blokes miss both chances. So what can we do? Recognise ourselves for who we are, be prepared to talk about the real stuff, understand the need to understand our spirit. It's critically important. Use some help, because we'll be far more effective men if we get over our isolated independence. You know, the gift of time is a really important thing. I did a talk for some farmers one day, and this guy said, "You don't know anything about farming, because if I work 24 hours a day for the next 3 years, I still couldn't catch up with all the jobs I've got to do." I said, "Well, that's okay, but it won't work." And he was doing his boom spraying, and he watched his wife drive down to the bus to pick up his kids. And he thought, "I could do that." I must have got to him a bit. So the next day he said to his wife, "I'll go and pick up the kids off the bus." So he did. He's an 8 and 10-year-old, a little girl, a little boy. The little girl walks around the corner. Her immediate response was, "Where's Mum? What's happened to Mum?" What was the little boy's response? Exactly. Am I in trouble? The only time I see my father is for discipline. And that got to this dad. He said, "That really cut me right to my heart." He said, "If that's all my son thinks that I'm here for, then I've got to change this." So he started picking up his kids. It took him 15 minutes a day. He'd drive down, he'd pick up the kids. He said after about a week, the kids started to relax, started to tell me about school. He said after about a month of doing it, they started to ask me what I'd been doing. Took a little bit of time. But he said, "I don't care whether it's seeding or harvest, I wouldn't miss picking up my kids from the bus." It's the best conversation we have. It's not a big amount of time, but it's a gift, not what's left over when everything else is done. And for your relationship, for your kids, your partner, we owe them that. Not just about work, it's about making sure that the other side of our life is taken care of. And whether you're here because you want to know a little bit about what these guys do, or whether you're just curious, or whether you work in the health system, or whatever, I hope you pick up a few clues from being here tonight. And if you are thinking about getting engaged with a program that actually does different things, that helps men to come to terms with their lot in life, these guys deliver really good programs. So thank you for listening.
My name's Frank. I'd like to ask our honoured presenter here, what does a young man do when he loses his worth and when his ability to actually work is cut off in his 20s, 30s and 40s, and he has to live on a pension? My background's in the military, and there's lots of young men who have lost their dignity by not being able to work and provide for their own family. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
The emphasis in our society is on creating identity through our work. And what we're trying to do with all the stuff we're doing is say there is more to a man than just his job. Because if you have that dual stream to yourself, if you value yourself for who you are as a human being, and you value the fact that even if you are injured or incapacitated and living on a pension, if you realise that your true value, your central value, is this spirit within us, which is quite often, it often transcends just human belief in our own strength to a belief in powers beyond ourselves. And for me, developing in all of us, men particularly, because women seem to be able to do it better than us for a whole range of reasons, but we blokes become so engrossed in this career aspiration, and that can be because of being in the army and I'm doing something for my country, and we know what happened to Vietnam vets when that wasn't respected. It destroyed them from the inside. So for me, it's about recognising that there's far more to each of us, particularly men, than just what we did for a job. Because if they don't develop that inner need, then what happens when the job goes, they're shattered as people and they lose identity totally. So even if they have got to that point, talking to them about that inner need to identify those more deeper things is really important, in my opinion. And from the work that I do over a number of years, I was a teacher before I went into this, and I was a diesel mechanic before I went into that. So I've been around all sorts of places, and I still go to mine sites and I have guys weep, because that's like a prison camp in many, many ways. Guys that work on fly in, fly out. People think, oh, this is great. The golden handcuffs hold them to the job. And quite often stuff's going on that shatters their lives in other ways. And if they go with a goal, we're going to pay for our house and we're going to do it together with our partner or wife. And when we've got the house paid for, but usually the golden shackle says, but we need a new car and we can upgrade the house. And so can you see how it overwhelms? And so for me, all these things that these guys do are about trying to help that. When you talk about rites of passage, it's about who are you? Who are you? Not, I'm Joe Brown, the best cabinet maker in the world, or the best mechanic in the world, or the best soldier in the world. I'm a man with feelings and a heart and a soul. And, you know, those things to me, and talking to young men, if you know a young man like that, if he's your son, talk to him about that sort of stuff. And I can send you a little book that we've done. We're all in it. It's under the depth that varies. It's just the truth, isn't it? We're all in it. It's under the depth that varies. And I can send you that if you give me your address later, and you can share that with him. But there's lots of, take the stages of men, because that also talks about that. And the risk-taking book one is also. So there's plenty of resources and there's plenty of help, but talk about that inner need.
I'm now going to ask, as I said, Jeff Paul, who is the chair of the Menswork Program, to come up now and just to tell us a bit about some of the, as I said, the very exciting initiatives and things that are going to be happening throughout the course of this year. So, with Jeff,
We've sort of been talking a bit about the landscape of men's work. I call it the landscape because it is a pretty broad horizon. All of the things that are offered up as opportunities for men, either as remedial, a lot of the stuff that Julian was talking about how do we fix it after we find we're in trouble, but particularly preventative programs, trying to help men be better men. How do we raise our boys? How do we give them a good start? So in that great big landscape, Menswork Project sits in there somewhere. It's a bit like a forest, and we're one pathway into the forest. And really, I think the challenge is getting men to pick a path, have a go. I think at Menswork Project, we're not precious about that we are the only program. We encourage men to look at all the ways that they may develop themselves, become stronger, live better lives. So tonight, we're really trying to help you understand why we might be part of an opportunity for you, if that's where you are in your journey in life. So there's the big landscape, and Julian covered that really well about how we need to understand all these things. So if you thought you wanted to come onto a program, we like to think we're action-based. It's not all navel-gazing and sitting in a circle and talking. We do a bit of that, but not only that. And so it's very much applied to what you need. I know Wes and I, who co-facilitate a lot, we would never say this is the sort of man you need to be. But we would say to you, well, given the man you just described that you want to be, have you thought of this? What about that? Is there any other bloke in the group who's got an idea that's been there before? So very much action-based and dynamic. We do work in our workshops, obviously, because it takes effort to create change, particularly for men. But there's a lot of self-reflection. Have a think about it and come back to us on that. A lot of question building, because a lot of men will come to a workshop and they don't even know what they're looking for. So helping men develop themselves to a point of stepping across the line with a dumb question and then finding it opens up great opportunities for them. And in that, the language of well-being, a little bit like Julian was saying, blokes don't know what to say. What are these words that are about feelings and emotions? If I think I'm going to sound stupid when I say it, maybe I won't say it, and therefore nothing changes. So helping men get the language of well-being, that they can say these things. Challenging yourself, and certainly I think Menswork Project, my colleagues would agree, we don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all. So you're not going to get the workbook and you do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or buy into a process. I'm not saying that's a wrong way to do it, but it's not the way we do it. And we're much more likely to work at a unique, idiosyncratic level with men rather than tell you how to go about your life. So how do you get involved with us? Well, there's lots of levels and entrance points into Menswork Project. Pretty much all of you, if you've been invited and got the emails that I send out, you go, oh, great, who is this bloke, Jeff? Well, you would have heard about our breakfasts, where you were invited to come, usually to Peter Effort's lovely place in Gooseberry Hill, and it's a way of just putting your toe in the water. You come along to a breakfast. If you want a testimonial on the eggs that Peter Effort makes, ask Dan Blackman. Dan is a man who can handle eggs and bacon, so his testimonial is gold-plated. So we have a lovely breakfast, but it's really about rubbing shoulders with blokes. Might be because you've got a question rattling around and you're not sure what to do with it, and you just rub shoulders with men and check out how they've gone on their journey. Or you might have a direct interest in our programs and you just want to ask a question, or a bit like tonight, hear a bit of a testimonial about how it's worked for somebody else. So the breakfasts are soft entry, shallow end of the pool. You won't drown in that, and it's a great way to get started. We've got our one-day workshops, which I run locally here in my rooms in Maylands. Good taster. Got about 8 of them running this year, so some men come along once just with a question. Some men will come along 6 or 7 times during the year and just iteratively work their way through stuff. So that's a way. We've got our weekends down, usually at certain time. We run the weekends at the retreat centre there because it's just an easy venue for us. And top of the Wazza is the Bali retreats. You've heard a bit about 8 days in Bali. We do some work, we have a whole lot of fun, we walk and expend a bit of energy. We listen to lots of jokes from Wes Carter, so that's the bonus on the whole thing. You don't have to pay extra for it. Wes is quite happy to offer all his jokes, his whole book of jokes. And we do wonderful things in a glorious setting. Peter, Effort and Wes now run sessions for women. And if you were looking at the slideshow earlier on, secret men's business for women only, because women are such a huge channel to their men or other men to help them to take that first step. So that's becoming more and more obvious in this landscape that I talk about. Let's talk to women how to understand and maybe work with their men, but also how to encourage and how to help their men gain the confidence to step across the line. And we're hoping to gain more and more the ear of health and wellbeing practitioners. A few people here tonight I know are health practitioners who might see this as another way of introducing their clients into personal development or a gentle therapy type context. So we hope that becomes obvious to those professional people. And on that point, never ever let money get in the way of doing a Menswork Project program. We say that over and over again, that we don't let money get in the way of men's business, men's work. That doesn't mean it's free, but we can look at time payment options and other ways to help men get into a program when they need it and not put it off because they can't or because they want to use that as an opt-out opportunity. So never let money get in the way of talking to us about accessing the program. So keep talking to us, keep asking questions. There's business cards scattered around, there's flyers, there's lots of contact information, phone numbers, and we would love to hear from you if you have any interest in just generally who we are and what's coming up, or particularly if you've got interest in our programs, in kickstarting your personal development journey, if you've got specific things you're looking for, relationship enhancement, why are my kids running amok, what is it about that supervisor at work, what is retirement, how do I build that into a transition rather than an end point and falling off the edge of the known world. So keep in touch with us and hopefully you'll find something useful in the Menswork Project for you or a mate or a son or a dad. Anybody at all who might find this useful, then we would love to be part of their lives and make our, what we think is a unique and powerful program available to everybody who could see us as valuable. So thank you very much.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out faces, worn out faces, bright and early for the daily races, going nowhere, and the tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I want to drown my sorrow, no tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad, in which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. You run in circles, it's a very, very mad, mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Wait to feel the way that every child should. Sit and listen, sit and listen. rules. It's a very, very mad